I grew up as a Muslim my entire life. Um, I grew up believing that if I didn't pray 5 times a day and fasted during Ramadan, I would not go into heaven. I knew who Jesus was, but I never had a relationship with him. I came across Young Life my freshman year of high school. When I figured out it was a Christian organization, I told myself that I would never go back. But I still found myself wanting to go back. To every event and to every Bible study, I was there. I went to summer camp with Young Life my sophomore year of high school, and for the first time I asked myself, how do I know what I'm believing in is the right religion? After that, I started living sort of a double life. I'd go out with Young Life, I'd be a Christian, but then I'd go home and I'm Muslim on the inside. And then I went to camp again my senior year of high school in 2021. And in that year, July 7th, between like 10 to 11 a.m., I chose to put Jesus at the center of my life. And for the first time, I felt like God was like right there beside me. So I've just never been happier in that moment. And that's the first time I ever cried believing in God. And in the span of 4 years, it was like my heart was chasing after Jesus, but the way that I grew up was a big obstacle in the way. But then a month after I accepted Jesus, I didn't open my Bible not once. I was like, oh, I accepted Jesus, I'm chilling, not, yeah, he's right there. I'm not really doing anything anymore. But then an uncle of mine passed away. And I remember going to a funeral, and this was like my first funeral. I was seeing his son, which was my cousin, and him just in front of, like in between us, being buried. And I was like, this man just died, and everything that he has on this earth will not go with him at all. And August came around, and I was talking to my Young Life leader, and I said that I will not go to school my first semester of college. And I said that I have to focus on God more than anything. So I started reading Matthew, and I felt like everything I was reading in Matthew was just like God telling me like, oh, you have to do this. But I knew that me being a Christian would put me and my family at conflict. And I prayed for months about telling my family that I am a Christian. And then slowly I started telling other people, like friends and people that I kind of knew. And then I told my mom. And then the first words to come out of her mouth was that this was the worst thing you could have ever told me. And that I would never be able to come back in her home country. And she also said that I'm not allowed to see my brothers anymore. Because she was afraid that they would end up Christian like me. And my dad said that I was stupid for believing Christianity and that he doesn't care. And on that day, I had gotten disowned by my family. And for 3 hours, the only 4 words that came out of my mouth was, I am a Christian. And I said nothing else because in Matthew 10:32, it says, everyone who acknowledges me public here on earth, I'll also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. In Matthew 13:57, it says, a prophet is honored everywhere except in his own hometown and among his own family. And in Matthew 10:35-36, it says, I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Your enemies will be right in your own household. I learned that being a follower of Christ is the hardest thing anyone could ever do. I didn't have to pray 5 times a day so that God might have mercy on me. all I had to do was just open the door and let Jesus love me. I also realized that how my family had responded and reacted to me being a Christian was more of a cultural response. And as important as culture is, it should not be defining what religion, your culture should not be defining what your religion should be like. Because of that, I prayed my whole life 5 times a day in a language that I didn't even understand. After that, I experienced the hardest part of my life, and it's all because I chose to follow Jesus, and I would do it again if I had to. Now my life is fairly simple and joyful because everything that I choose to do, I put Jesus at the center of it through church and being a leader and my housemates and honoring my family even though I feel resented. And this morning, my mom was gonna let me bring my brother to church, my youngest one, he's 2 years old. And as we was leaving out the door, my stepdad told me to not take him. And he said that all this religion stuff, he doesn't want me to put it on his kids. So I remember leaving the house heartbroken. And on my drive here, I was definitely going a bit above the speed limit, blasting gratitude. And I was like, I'm about to get baptized today. And there is just nothing that can stand in my way. That's all.
Wow!
It's our responsibility to ask, who is Lord over your life?
Bro, it's Jesus.
We baptize you, our brother, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, buried with Christ in baptism, and raised to walk.